was gonna say, like, that was disappointing at
Yeah,
first.
at first, yeah.
From Spontaneously Combustible Studio in Cleveland, Ohio, presented by Permanently Geek, this is Uncovered. Now, usually on this show, what we will do is we'll take an original version of a song and a cover version of a song, and we'll pit them against each other to try to discover which is the better of the two. But just a few days ago, the music world lost someone that was actually, from a musical, if not lifestyle perspective, a big inspiration for me as a musician. But we lost Scott Weiland. And so we decided to do a special episode of Uncovered where we take 3 different cover songs that Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland's band, did over the years. And we pit them against one another. So usually we have no idea what's under this.
Today, wow.
Yeah, we're cheating a little bit. But we're still going to do our usual ritual of revealing. So, shall we?
Let's.
All right.
Drum roll, please.
The 3 songs.
No idea that was under there.
So we're going to be doing Break On Through, which is a cover of a Doors song. Revolution, originally by the Beatles, and Dancing Days, originally by Led Zeppelin. So even though Scott Weiland is no longer, sadly, able to sue us, his estate might. So you will only hear short clips of these 3 songs. We're going to listen to them in their entirety, and we'll be right back.
Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide. Break on through to the other side. You want a revolution? Well, you know we are white. I said it's alright. I guess it's all in my heart. You'll be my own.
And we're back. Wow, that made me sad.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't really revisited their music since the news of Scott Weiland's death came out, and I won't lie, I'm tearing up a little bit because it's just really, really sad because they're so fucking good.
That next day at work, I went back and listened to their first 3 albums just back to back to back while I was sitting at work.
Yeah,
Man,
I mean,
I forgot how much I loved that music. Man.
Yeah, there were a couple of their records that were such distinct, like, soundtracks to different parts of my life. Like one of the, like, my most vivid memories I have was I was in college, and there was a photography project that I had to do, and I was driving up by myself from Kent State, where I went to school, up to Cleveland to break into the grounds of one of the steel mills that has, like, flames that shoot out of the smokestacks periodically. And you don't know these.
Don't try this at home, kids.
But no, I was getting, like, it was snowing. There was fire. I was breaking and entering, and I was listening to Stone Temple Pilots. Like, I had 3 different records of theirs that I was, like, just cycling through as I was driving up, and then breaking onto the grounds of a steel mill and setting up a camera tripod and taking pictures. But no, I'm really just so much sadder now having listened to it, because all three of those were fantastic, and I was only familiar with the Dancing Days, the Led Zeppelin cover, beforehand.
Yeah, same here. I didn't even know they covered Break On Through and Revolution until today.
We'd had someone right after Scott Weiland's death post a message in the comments, and I've forgotten your name, so I apologize. I'll put it down here. But asking us to do an episode about Break On Through, and that was when I first learned about that.
Same here.
And so one of the reasons we're doing the episode the way we are is we didn't really want to pit a Stone Temple Pilots song against an original, because we really didn't want to make this episode about, like, was Stone Temple Pilots better than Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or the Doors?
Right. And in researching these songs too, all three of these songs were.
I don't know what that was. It sounded like a trash can.
Yeah, something was going on.
It's the ghost of Scott Weiland coming. and deleting our files.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
Interesting. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. All three of these songs were either from tribute albums or were a result of playing a tribute show, and then they recorded the song they played.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't necessarily like doing a real artistic take on anything. So it'd be kind of weird to sort of pit this against the original track, I would think.
That said, they truly were very artistic takes on all three of them.
They were. I mean, there isn't a single song that I heard that I thought to myself, well, it doesn't make sense that Stone Temple Pilots is playing this.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
it sounded great.
You could see like where the influence came from, like the way that the Beatles and the Doors and I mean, I'm sure you can easily draw some parallels between Scott Weiland and
Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mine
was you knew where I was going.
I saw you struggling there.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for that little safety net.
Yeah.
But you can easily like draw comparisons between Scott Weiland and Jim Morrison.
Oh yeah.
And you know the grooves from Led Zeppelin, like there's obvious the way the rhythm section in Stone Temple Pilots worked. There was a huge amount of that, and just from being a front man, like Scott Weiland was someone that as a musician I studied the way he performed on stage. And the way he could engage with the crowd, and you can draw a direct parallel between Led Zeppelin and the Doors and Stone Temple Pilots in that showmanship.
Oh yeah. From our generation, I think that he's probably like the quintessential front man.
Absolutely.
The embodiment of a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of someone that I would place higher in that, like, the true upper echelon of what a rock star is.
Right. So, I mean, it's no secret that the guy had his struggles, and, you know, it's... I don't know if his death came as a surprise to anybody out there, but that doesn't make it any less sad.
It was the saddest, like, oh, God... I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
And again, he was in the upper echelon of rock stars, and the people that he's right up there with, they didn't make it.
Very true, yeah.
So, you know, there's something... I remember actually my sister, we were talking about the idea of different, like, you know, the different kinds of musicians that you have, and the ones that usually are those really inspired, just like otherworldly performers, are usually the ones that are living kind of on the razor's edge, and that's what gives them that different view on things, that different take, and that, you know, sometimes just barely holding it together can be what makes your music transcendent. But God, it's sad.
Yeah.
So I suppose we should talk about the actual song.
Yeah. It's interesting now too. I just thought of something, is that there was a Velvet Revolver cover too that we could have thrown in there, but which I'm just now remembering this, so maybe that'll be a later episode.
Yeah, we can toss that into the mix. Yeah. We'll toss it into the hopper with all the other covers, and we can
hopper.
the hopper. Toss it in the hopper. But so the one thing that I was just really impressed throughout was how groovy, like, and I don't mean that in like the groovy man kind of way, but the like how good all of the grooves that they put together on each of those songs were.
I mean, going beyond Scott Weiland, Stone Temple Pilots, the Leo brothers, and the other guy whose name is escaping me at the moment. But like, they were a fantastic band. Mm-hmm. Incredible musicians.
Absolutely. And you know, I think a lot of times it's easy to forget how much of a riff rock band they really were.
Yeah.
And the how incredible the rhythm section was, which was the foundation for so much of what Scott Weiland was able to do.
Right.
So yeah, I was really blown away by that. And I have to say, so I'm not a huge fan of the Doors in general. And I'm not a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I am a really big Beatles fan.
Yeah, we're in equal territory.
Wait, we're actually agreeing?
Yeah, we're agreeing on that.
We've agreed on
First
something.
time ever.
All right, so it takes a tragedy to bring us together. But I have to say that I liked both of those better than the original versions. Like, I genuinely have to say, if we were...
I think you're right.
If we were doing the head-to-head
right.
cover versus originals on those, I'd be giving them to Stone Temple Pilots on both of those. the Revolution one, fantastic cover. It's hard for me to, put anyone above the Beatles, but that would be a tough decision because I really, really enjoyed that.
It was a fantastic cover. I don't think that I could say that it was better than the Beatles, but
right. Yeah. So if we'd actually decided to do this as head-to-head episodes, we would have been in agreement on all three.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's weird.
That's weird. I'm glad we didn't do it that way. I feel dirty. Might have to change some of my choices here.
So what we were doing when you saw us with the little fast motion and you were hearing the songs, we were writing down what we thought the best of those three versions was and what we predicted the other person thought the best was going to be for us. So are we ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Ooh. Interesting. So Dancing Days was the one I was most familiar with.
Same here.
It actually got radio play. I recall hearing it on the alternative station. Are you about to make fun of my writing?
Bargak.
Bargak on the trough. That is exactly what I wrote.
That is exactly.
If you're not familiar with the famous Doors tune Bargak on Trough.
Yeah.
That was my favorite of the three.
I'm not sure who Bargak is, but
I think he's a character from Tolkien. I think he was one of the ones.
If he's not, he should be.
I think he was in the Silmarillion. He was a great warrior of the dwarves. And our producer has just let us know that there is, I presume, a Dr. Bargak, who is, let me guess, person. Dentist? Is he a dentist?
Proctologist, right?
Acupuncturist. So, Dr. Bargak was the inspiration.
Yep.
Well, fair enough.
We've learned something.
But so was it just the familiarity with Dancing Days, or was there something specifically about?
I think as I was listening, it's interesting because we listened to the songs in the sequence of Bargak on through
on Trough,
Revolution, and then Dancing Days, and each successive one, I thought to myself, well, this one's going to be my favorite. Like the next one plays, I'm like, oh, well, this one's going to be my favorite. And then it gets to the last one, I'm like, well, clearly this one's my favorite. I think out of all three were great covers. I think out of all three of them, though, this is the one that I thought was the most distinctively sounding like STP and not as much sounding like the original song.
I can hear that, especially with, I think that... Bargak on Trough, Break On Through. The use of the organ in there was that it was distinctly not STP-ish.
Right, yeah.
And I think
I loved the bass distortion.
Right. Oh, the bass distortion on that was phenomenal. So good. But yeah, the way they managed to, because the Doors, the keyboard organ parts are really intrinsic to the sound of it. Yeah. And that was actually one of the things I liked best about it, was how they managed to integrate that instrument that wasn't necessarily part of what they normally do into something, and still make it sound like an STP song.
Yeah, definitely. I also liked how on all three songs he kind of changed the way he sang on all three of them to sort of fit the original tone of the song. But yeah, like this one was the one out of the three that I thought to myself, if I didn't know this was a cover, I think this song sounds most like it could have just been on an STP album.
And I will be honest, my introduction to the song Dancing Days was through STP's version, and for years I did not know it was not an original song of theirs. It wasn't till I heard on...
It wasn't until tonight, right?
You know that I'm not nearly as educated in classic rock as you are. I started listening to rock music in my mid-teens, which was, it was in the 90s. And so that was where I was first introduced to it, and the DJs on the alternative rock station never mentioned that it was a Led Zeppelin cover.
Yeah, true.
And it wasn't until I heard it on a classic rock station somewhere I was like, Wait a second. That sounds like a
Led Zeppelin's covering STP.
a really old version of that STP song. Wow. So I will agree. Absent of the knowledge that it wasn't an original to them, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And even lyrically, it still sounds like something that Scott Weiland might have written. I don't know what substances were used in the original writing of it, but
he probably tried them.
He probably tried them at some point.
He made his way to them at some point.
Well, shall we reveal what we
let's
thought the other one would pick?
So this is what you thought I would pick.
And this is what you thought I would pick. Oh.
Yeah. So I picked mine for you, and you picked it. So,
well, fair enough.
Each of us thought that the other would agree with what we had picked.
That's funny.
That is funny.
So Kevin thought that I would pick Dancing Days because it was awesome.
Yeah. And Michael thought I would pick Break On Through because that groove, though.
So neither of us got this right. Which I guess means that the score remains the same. So, no gain there. So yeah, this episode was actually a lot harder to shoot than I expected it to be. Like I said before, I hadn't really listened to much of Scott Weiland's music since he passed away, and I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised about how much of an emotional impact it had on me. So music truly did lose one of its brightest lights, and we're gonna miss having you in all your brilliant, beautiful, broken glory. So thank you, Scott, for what you gave to us, and thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Uncovered. We'll be back to our normal, gleeful, comedic selves. Yes. I'll make fun of Kevin a lot more in next week's episode.
Yep.
So thank you again for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this. And if you have any cover songs that you'd like us to pit against the originals, let us know in the comments. We've already added several of the suggestions that people have made into the hoppa of songs that we have to choose from. And again, subscribe to Permanently Geek. There are all kinds of shows on there about video games, about movies. So seriously, please subscribe and make sure you tune in to catch the next episode of Uncovered. Once again, my name is Michael McFarland.
My name is Kevin Conaway.
And we'll see you next time.